I grew up in a house where I love you and show me the receipt were not opposites. My grandfather taught me that signatures are just promises brave enough to stand daylight. That philosophy put me into compliance. I'm not a cop. I translate rules into human sentences and build systems so money and people end up where they meant to go. Liam is sunshine, shortcuts, and we'll fix it tomorrow. He can talk a parking ticket into an apology. When we got engaged, his mother Marla hugged me and said, "We're doers, not filers." I smiled and told her I'm both. We started planning a small wedding and daydreaming about a starter place. I said the words you'd expect from someone with my job. Prenup, budget, pre-approval together when we're ready. Liam said, "Paperwork kills romance." I said, "Paperwork keeps romance from getting repossessed." The first odd thing was tiny. A hard inquiry on my credit report from a mortgage lender I hadn't contacted. Not a soft peek. Not an identity check for a bank product I use. An inquiry that leaves a footprint. Could have been a clerical error. I set a mental sticky note. Then mail started thinning. A bank envelope I expected didn't show. Our building has a camera above the mailbox because of last year's package thief. Mail cam still. A familiar silhouette, Marla's scarf and bangles, fishing envelopes from our box to help. It's her thing. I was already here, so I grabbed your mail. Around the same time, I got a temporary address added alert from one of my credit monitoring tools. Not mine. The new address matched Marla Street. Temporary address flag. Alternate mailing address listed. Please confirm if authorized. I did not authorize it. I pulled my full credit report. Credit report. Snapshot. Mortgage pre-approval inquiry. Co-borrower application present. Lender. Fairpoint Home Lending. Co-borrower. I stared at that word until it felt fake. In my phone, Liam had a pinned text about a surprise. The puzzle took 3 pieces to become a picture I didn't like. I asked Liam, lightly, if he'd been house hunting just to see how his eyes would move. He laughed. "Babe, I like surprises." I said, "Surprises that don't attach debt to me." He kissed my forehead and said, "Trust me. When I tell you my job is to investigate without accusing, believe me. I don't call anyone a liar. I let paper speak." I wrote the lender name down and did a normal human thing, called the generic line. "Hi. I need to confirm if my information was used in a pre-approval I didn't start." The rep was polite but caged. "We can't disclose application details." I asked, "If an application lists me as a co-borrower, do you have any record of a knowledge-based authentication? That's the quiz banks ask about your life. Past addresses, old loans, to confirm you are you." She said, "Typically yes." I asked for a copy of any digital audit showing the session. She couldn't email me anything without a formal request, but she let one sentence fall. "It shows passed. DocuSign/audit log. Note. KBA passed. Session device not on file for OP." If the quiz used my history and someone else answered, that pass is not a compliment. It's a red flag. Liam knows my college street because he's heard my stories. Marla knows my first car because she's seen the photo. The questions aren't classified. They are usually good enough, until they aren't. Jade came over, sat on my couch and said, "Okay, detective, what's action?" I was in 2 minds. The fiancé who doesn't want to nuke a surprise, and the professional who knows that the kindest thing you can do for future you is plant evidence where panic you can find it later. We made tea and I built a quiet plan. Step 1. Canary marks. In plain English, I put tiny, harmless fingerprints on any document with my information that could be reused or cleaned up. I exported my proof of funds letter as 3 PDF variants with invisible differences. A space after a comma in one, a micro in the header margin in another, a unique checksum, file fingerprint, on each. Canary PDF check. Pack A, left header dot. Pack B, hyphenated footer. Pack C, capitalized, separate, in line 3. The content is identical. The marks tell me if a page wanders. Step 2. I told my bank to require in-person ID for any joint products and to note a verbal PIN known only to me. In normal words, I asked them to stop mistaking family for authorized. Step 3. I reached out to the title office whose name I saw on a mailer tucked under our door. Paige the realtor left it after just browsing with Liam. I asked a neutral question. If a closing package lands with my name as co-borrower, can we require a no substitution / no undisclosed borrower affidavit signed in front of you? The title officer, Mr. Dorsey, is a man whose voice smiles only for policy. We can include an affidavit, he said. We can also require both parties present with ID and refuse any swapped pages. I sent the cleanest, simplest email of my life confirming that. Title office note. Affidavit added. No substitutions. Both signers present. Halt on discrepancy. Step 4. I wrote a one-sentence clause into a small catering contract because Marla, of course, was planning a house surprise gathering if fraud or illegal activity related to financing / closing is suspected. Client may cancel immediately without refund. Deposits may be applied to administrative / legal costs. Vendor clause. The sales rep circled it and said, weird, but okay. My career thanks you, Liz from Sugar and Salt. Then I tested my theory. I accidentally left a printed pack B proof of funds on the kitchen desk, sealed in an envelope addressed for pre-approval meeting. I hugged Liam and said I was going to the gym. The mail cam timeline showed Marla arriving to drop off a casserole and leaving with nothing in her hands. When I returned, the envelope was back where I left it, but the top staple holes didn't match the bottom ones. I took it to my desk lamp and looked at the footer. Pack A footer, Pack B header. My separate capitalization missing. Page had been swapped. Canary PDF check. Mismatch. Header left. Absent. Footer dash changed. Capitalization drift. My heart didn't break. My plan got confirmed. I confronted no one. I documented. A week later, the calendar is a blur by choice. I don't want exact dates here. A floral invitation showed up from Paige, the realtor. Surprise house celebration. There was a photo of a craftsman porch and the words, so proud of these two. Paige had never met me. I met Paige anyway. I introduced myself as the other decision-maker in any house purchase with Liam. She looked like a person who had just realized a plot twist too late. He told me you were busy, she said. I told her my calendar is irrelevant to my signature. She said she'd loop me in. My phone chimed with a DocuSign invitation addressed to me, but the audit trail said it had already been viewed and passed KBA from a tablet in a different neighborhood. DocuSign / audit log, screenshot. Viewed by OP email, KBA passed. Device IP geolocation not near OP's usual. Session user agent, iPad. I own no iPad. I called the mortgage broker, Evan, and used my work voice. Kind, specific, boring. I'm not authorizing my information as a co-borrower. If any application lists me, please mark the file. Do not proceed without OP in person with ID. Also, please note I will be at any closing, if this goes that far, with my own counsel and title officer aware. He said, I thought this was a gift. I said, debt is not a gift. Liam came home high on momentum. You're going to freak when you see it, he said. It's perfect. I said, it won't be, if my name is on a loan I didn't consent to. He looked wounded. Why do you always assume the worst? Because the worst keeps sending calendar invites. Marla called to say I was ruining the moment. I said moments that survive daylight don't need to hide paper. She said, we were trying to make your life easier. I said, having my social used for your shortcut is not easier. Jade came over with dumplings and asked the question that moved me from fear to boundary. If this were your client, what would you do? I told her. I'd set a trap that tells the truth at the moment it matters most, so I don't have to raise my voice later. I'd show up at closing with the title officer, the affidavit, and 3 canary-marked originals. If the pages match, we sign or we don't, depending on whether I actually want the house. If the pages don't match, we halt closing and let the system do the next steps. Compassion doesn't mean pretending not to see, so that's where I am. Plan steps. Arrive at the surprise with my ID, my counsel on standby, and Mr. Dorsey ready to enforce the affidavit. Present pack C as the only version of any proof tied to me and watch for swapped headers/footers/capitalization. If any closing doc lists me as co-borrower without matching marks, I say pause, and the title office triggers a closing hold, plain English. We stop the ceremony. Nothing funds. Everyone breathes into a bag. Invoke the tiny clause in the catering contract if Marla tries to turn a halted closing into a party. So I'm not out even more cash for someone else's mess. File an identity misuse report with the lender after, not on the sidewalk, if the KBA pass shows up again from a device that isn't mine. I'm not looking for legal advice. I have a lawyer and a job that pays me to understand risks. I'm asking if I'm the A*** hole for planning to crash and halt a surprise house closing if the documents prove what the breadcrumbs suggest. They used my info as a silent cosigner, passed the RUU quiz without me, and tried to walk me into a debt I didn't agree to because they think love is above a signature. I don't want to humiliate anyone. I want to make sure I'm not treated like a line item on someone else's dream. If I'm wrong and this is all a tragic comedy of errors, the canary marks will match. The affidavit will be a formality, and I'll apologize for being tense. If I'm right, the pause protects me, and maybe some lender's fraud queue gets a little smarter. AITA for setting an ethical trap and planning to stop the closing if any page doesn't match the truth. Evidence blocks so far, plain words. A credit report shows a mortgage pre-approval inquiry listing me as co-borrower. A DocuSign/audit log, knowledge-based authentication passed, from a device I don't own in a place I wasn't. A mail cam still. Marla accessing our mailbox on a day I waited for lender mail. A temporary address flag. An alternate address I didn't add, matches Marla Street. A canary PDF check, mismatch. Envelope staple/story changed. Header/footers don't align with the version I printed. A title office note. Affidavit added. No substituted pages. Both parties present. Halt on discrepancy. A vendor clause. No fraud, immediate cancellation without refund for the celebration contract. Update 1. I treated myself like a client. Document, don't dramatize. I opened a fresh folder named House, Evidence, Human, and started numbering pages the way panic can't argue with. 1. Credit report, detail. I paid for a full pull from a bureau, not just a consumer app summary. The line wasn't shy. Fairpoint Home Lending, mortgage pre-approval, hard inquiry, co-borrower application present. No loan yet, but enough smoke to respect. 2. Bank call log, summary. I called the lender's main line and, later, a security number Jade found on page 2 of their privacy notice. I didn't demand specifics. I asked process questions and took notes in neutral verbs. Rep number 1. Typically, we require KBA. This one shows passed. A security rep. The digital envelope shows a session from a mobile Safari/iPad user agent. Geolocation does not match your usual logins. I wrote below it, I don't own an iPad. 3. DocuSign/audit log. Excerpt. Page, the realtor, looped me in after I introduced myself as a decision maker. A DocuSign link hit my inbox. I didn't click sign. I expanded more history and screenshotted. Viewed by OP email, KBA passed. IP geolocation out of pattern. Device, iPad. I printed it because paper keeps stress from editing itself. 4. Mail cam/smart mailbox. Stills. Our building camera caught Marla dropping off muffins, then opening our mailbox with the super's pass key. The stills aren't a crime drama. They just show access. I captioned the printout, not accusatory. Marla retrieved mail on the day lender correspondence expected. 5. Temporary address flag. Screenshot. A bureau alert showed alternate mailing address added. Not mine. On Marla Street. I didn't write tampering. I wrote, change occurred without my action. Disputed as unauthorized. I filed the dispute through the standard link so a third-party timestamp exists. 6. Canary PDF check. Mismatch. I compared my proof of funds Pack B, left header dot. hyphenated footer, capitalized separate, to the version that came home in a new envelope for the pre-approval meeting. The envelope staple bite didn't align. Inside, page 2 had no left header dot and the footer ended with a different mark. The capitalization drifted. I photographed. Close-up of margins. Macro of footer. I labeled it like a museum placard. Pack be expected. Pack A/unknown hybrid returned. I didn't write forgery. I wrote substitution. 7. Email excerpt. Title office. Mr. Dorsey, title, replied in plain words that belong on a fridge. We will only accept documents reviewed in the room. Both parties present with ID. No substituted pages. If discrepancy detected, we place the file on hold until resolved. He also attached a one-page no undisclosed borrower affidavit. I initialed a copy for my folder like a talisman. 8. Broker and realtor calls. Notes. I phoned Evan, the mortgage broker, and kept my voice boring on purpose. I do not consent to being listed as co-borrower without me in the room. He sighed, we're so close, and tried the gift angle. I repeated, debt is not a gift. Page texted an apology for misreading availability, then tried to salvage morale with listings. I sent back one sentence. Decision-makers are present at decisions. Meanwhile, Liam and Marla auditioned 3 defenses. It's a surprise. We wanted to take pressure off you. Pressure off me equals liability on me. You're making this too corporate, we're family. Family is the first place controls should work. After we close, you can change anything you don't like. After is where accountability goes to die. I gave Liam an off-ramp he could take without shame. On the porch in soft voice. If you tell me the truth now, we can reset. If you didn't add me, I'll apologize for the suspicion and we'll go together to any meeting. If you did, we tell the lender before this becomes worse paper. He wouldn't pick a square. He said, you always assume I'm trying to trick you. I said, I assume the system is easier to use than the conversation you don't want to have. Because I'm me, I also primed the less glamorous levers, a vendor clause confirmations, the catering and house reveal, space, both countersigned the line that says no fraud/illegal activity, immediate cancellation without refund. I asked for a written acknowledgement from each manager so weird phone calls couldn't unravel at mid-event. Bank notations. I asked my bank to add a verbal PIN to my profile and to annotate no joint products without in-person consent. The banker thanked me for making her day interesting. Consumer statements. I added a short, calm bureau note. Consumer does not consent to co-borrower applications. Requests lenders to verify identity in person. It's not magic. It's a polite speed bump. There were more signals. 9. Pre-approval email, headers. A forwarded lender message, from Liam's account, arrived with odd metadata. The received chain showed a forward from an address with Marla's initials at a male host older relative's use. Timestamped an hour before my DocuSign was viewed. Again, not proof of intent, but consistent with an adult doing the paperwork in the room they feel safest. 10. KBA notes. Human translation. A security rep explained KBA in words I wish lived on every bank's homepage. They're not passwords. They're trivia your roommate could guess. She added, we treat a past KBA as medium assurance, not high. That's why we like live ID at closing. It matters. People think those quizzes are a lock. They're a squeaky door. 11. Contact freeze. Utility. My phone plan reported a forwarding attempt on my voicemail that I didn't make. I toggled off forwarding entirely and set a pin there too. I saved the little service text like it was gold. Privacy is boring until it isn't. Through all of this, I didn't scandalize a room. I built a case a board regulator would nod at. Then I rehearsed the script with Jade because comm sentences need rehearsal. This page is not the version I issued. See header./footers/capitalization. I do not consent to being listed as a co-borrower. Please mark file and halt closing per affidavit. Vendors, per the clause on page 1, please cancel services tied to the reveal. The surprise invites gathered momentum. Someone, Marla, added a ribbon graphic. Someone, Paige, posted a porch photo with the caption, "So proud of these two." I printed the post and stapled it behind, "Title Office Note." A reminder that pride isn't process. Liam oscillated. Some afternoons he was contrite. Some nights he was buoyant, already arranging furniture in a place I hadn't chosen. He loved saying we, except when it meant us in a room with IDs. He said I was making him feel like a criminal. I said I was making the paper say who was paying whom. He asked if I would at least let the surprise land before getting technical. I said, the surprise landed when my credit report lit up. The last thing I needed before the day was an anchor from the title side. Mr. Dorsey called, unsmiling voice, "Blessed man." To confirm procedure in human. "You'll both sit. We'll verify ID. We will review the affidavit that says there are no undisclosed borrowers or substituted pages. If any doc lists you as co-borrower without matching your control marks, we stop. We don't fund. We don't fix later. We stop." I repeated his words back. He said, "Good. Bring your originals." I packed my small go bag, driver's license, passport, Pack C originals with the left header dot and correct footer, copies of credit report, audit log, mail cam, temp address flag, printed, title office note, the vendor contracts with the no fraud line highlighted, and one granola bar because lawfulness doesn't feed you. I also wrote one paragraph for a room that might try to turn feelings into facts. I'm not here to accuse. I'm here to sign true pages. If the documents match the version I issued and my consent is on them, we proceed. If any page lists me as co-borrower without my in-room consent or shows substitution marks, I say pause, and we halt closing per the affidavit. This protects everyone, from me to the lender to the title officer in this chair. I slid the paragraph into the front of my folder where my hands could find it if my mouth forgot how to be steady. Liam asked that night if I could please not embarrass him. I said I would not raise my voice. He asked if I would act surprised. I said, I will act like myself. He kissed my forehead like a man kissing a smoke alarm and fell asleep. I lay there and made peace with both outcomes. If the pages are clean and it's all confused enthusiasm, we'll either walk forward together if I want the house, or we'll walk away for different reasons with apology. If the pages are dirty, header dots wrong, footers wrong, my initials faked by someone who knows how I cross my T, then I will watch Mr. Dorsey put the file on hold, hand over my neat stack, and let the process do the loud part for me. I keep telling myself, ink is kinder than memory. Tomorrow, I'll see whose ink is on my life. Update 2. The title office looked like a dentist with better pens. Beige walls, a dish of peppermints, a conference table large enough to hold a life. Mr. Dorsey greeted us with the kind of professional warmth that doesn't sink or spike based on how your day is going. We'll verify ID, he said, laying out 2 little mats. We review the affidavit together. Then we flip through page by page. Any mismatch, we stop. Questions? Liam arrived in momentum, half grin, half relief. Marla swept in with a box of cookies like a sitcom cutaway, aiming for a laugh track. Paige, the realtor, perched at the far corner, expression of someone who wants the sale to be a hug. Evan, the broker, dialed in from a tablet. His voice came through a puck on the table, chirpy with almost there. I placed my ID on the mat. Mr. Dorsey scrutinized it, then Liam's. He slid the no undisclosed borrower affidavit toward us. The first sentence was not a lawyer's tongue twister. It was a seatbelt in English. We certify that there are no co-borrowers or co-signers whose identity or presence has not been disclosed and verified in this room, and that no pages in the closing package have been substituted after verification. He asked us to read it out loud, 1 line each. My voice was steady. Liam's wavered on "in this room." We began the stack. Page 1. Closing disclosure. Fees, taxes, title charges. My name did not appear. Mr. Dorsey uncapped a pen and had us initial that we'd reviewed. I traced my initial the way you look at the first step of a ladder. Okay. Fine. Page 2. Lender's certification. Fine. Page 3. Borrower's certification. Fine. Page 4. Occupancy affidavit. The header dot in the left margin winked at me like a tiny friend. In my pack C, the left dot is non-negotiable. Here, left dot. Footer mark, right colon. Good. My shoulders let out a millimeter. Page 5. A supplemental borrower identification page that wasn't in the stack Mr. Dorsey sent me last week. The header dot was on the right. The footer didn't wear the C I expected. It had a small dash like A. Under authorized signers, a line, co-borrower. My first/last, present via DocuSign. The sentence snagged. The via DocuSign tag was the kind of thing people add to make a story sound official, like an evening news lower third when no camera was there. Pause, I said. Calm, same volume as asking for water. Mr. Dorsey stopped mid-page turn and drew a horizontal line in his journal like a roadblock. I pointed with one finger. This page isn't pack C. My control marks aren't here. I tapped the right header dot. Mine live on the left. I tapped the footer. This reads like pack A. I slid my Canary PDF check card onto the table. A one-pager with pictures of the marks and their meanings in human words. Page leaned in. Evan's speaker went quiet, chirp replaced by the absence of hope. Marla went color bright. Don't be petty about punctuation, she said. It's the same thing. Mr. Dorsey answered before I had to. We don't sign meanings. We sign pages. He lifted the suspect page with two fingers, as if it were wet paint, and compared it to the copy from his pre-closing packet. He tilted them under the overhead light. Headers disagree, he said to the room. Footer mark disagrees. Language differs. He underlined via DocuSign. We also do not accept remote signers for this affidavit. Liam tried the soft sell. It just got weird because she's busy, he said, gesturing at me. We wanted to keep this moving. Mr. Dorsey's pen hovered. Moving and verifiable are different verbs, he said. We backtracked one page to confirm sanity. Matches. We moved forward one to see if the stack corrected itself. Page 6. Borrower's note. Left dot present. Footer colon present. Two signatures lines. Borrower, Liam. Co-borrower, blank. Mr. Dorsey turned the page sideways like an X-ray. If there is a co-borrower, she signs here in ink in front of me. She is here. She has not signed. Therefore, she is not a co-borrower. He looked up at Evan's speaker. Broker, we have a discrepancy. Evan's voice came tinny. It's probably just a formatting thing. Mr. Dorsey smiled with his eyes closed. Formatting does not invent signers. I pulled out the DocuSign/audit log, print with the iPad user agent, and slid it next to the via DocuSign line. This DocuSign was from a device I don't own. In a place I wasn't. I said. Your envelope says KBA passed. Those questions are trivia. My consent lives in daylight, not in a quiz. Marla's whisper sharpened. You're humiliating our family. I kept my palms flat. I'm keeping my name from being taped to debt. Mr. Dorsey set the suspect page aside and reached for a red stamp I didn't know title people got to use. Said hold. He didn't use it yet. He turned to me. Do you consent to be a co-borrower on this loan? He asked, voice like a form. No, I said. Do you consent to proceed with this closing as a non-borrower? Not if any page lists me as co-borrower or implies a remote signature, I said. He nodded once, like a person who got exactly what he ordered. He opened a thin laptop and typed the note you want your future self to find if memory goes soft. Title system entry. Discrepancy. Undisclosed co-borrower page. Control marks mismatch. Applicant denies consent. Hold per affidavit. He pressed the intercom button to the front desk and said, Please place the Fairpoint file on closing hold. Notify lender counsel. Evan fizzled. We're going to lose the rate, he said. You're going to lose the loan if you proceed with mismatched consent. Mr. Dorsey replied, not unkind. Rates move. Liens live. I pulled out credit report and the temporary address flag screenshot, setting them near the edge so they could be seen without being waived. There's also a bureau note about an alternate mailing address I didn't add. I said. Mail cam shows Marla retrieving our mail the day lender correspondence was expected. I slid mail cam into the line. The table now looked like what it was, a story told by nouns. Paige tucked her hair behind her ear and said, to no one and everyone, I'm so sorry. I should have looped you in. I thought it was romantic. I said, romance that passes a quiz on my childhood without me isn't romance. It's a workaround. She nodded into her lap. Marla reached for the box of cookies like it was a lever. We brought treats, she said, bright desperation. Mr. Dorsey's eyebrows did an entire sermon. Treats are not procedure. Then we met the page I had feared most. The borrower's authorization with a pre-checked box by my printed name and a faint photocopy of a signature that looked like mine if someone traced it after a glass of wine. The left header dot was absent. The footer dash wrong. The S in my last name didn't hook the way mine does. I didn't let my stomach tell the story. I let the paper. I placed my real signature next to it and tapped the hook. Not mine, I said. Mr. Dorsey didn't need a magnifying glass. He drew a rectangle around the signature and wrote suspected substitution. He turned to Evan's speaker and said, we are now firmly in stop territory. He used the stamp. Hold hit the top of the file with a soft thud that felt louder than any argument. In plain language, Mr. Dorsey said to the room, this closing is paused. Funds will not move. The deed will not record. The keys will not change hands. We will notify lender risk, and they will review the application trail IP device KBA logs. You are free to remain seated and eat a cookie. You are not free to sign anything else. Liam ran a hand through his hair and aimed an apology halfway between me and the ceiling. I was trying to make this easy, he said. It landed like a paper airplane. I said, you were trying to make it quiet. Easy would have been asking. Marla turned anger into audience. She doesn't support you, she told Liam, as if I weren't there. She's making this about paperwork. I said, I'm making it about permission. Mr. Dorsey, hero of my small movie, added, and about the lender not buying a future lawsuit. Paige offered to reschedule once things are clarified. Evan muttered something about repapering. I put my hand on the affidavit we had just read aloud. We don't repaper what was never paper, I said. We either build a file we both consent to in person, or we don't build anything. Because I had prepared for the attempt to turn a halted closing into a party, I texted the space and catering managers the line we'd agreed upon. Within minutes, the house surprise part deflated. Politely, professionally. Vendor acknowledgments. Per clause, event services canceled without refund due to suspected fraud/identity misuse tied to financing. Deposits applied to administrative costs. If Marla wanted to turn momentum into confetti, the confetti just went non-refundable. The lender's risk team called the title office while we were still in the chairs. A new voice entered the speaker. A human who sounded like my colleagues sound when they know the answer but need to read the line. We're placing the application in review. No documents should be executed. We'll send a written confirmation. Lender risk note. Application hold. Identity/consent discrepancy. Audit of KBA session. Request for device confirmation. We sat in a quiet that didn't need to be filled. Mr. Dorsey slid a copy of his hold memo across the table to me. Initialed. He asked if I wanted a scanned copy emailed too. I said yes. Paper and electrons. I tucked the memo into my folder behind title office note, like a match set. Liam whispered, I didn't sign your name. I believed him, technically. You don't need to move your hand to move a line when a mother thinks motherhood is power of attorney. He added, I thought KBA meant it was fine. I said, KBA means your mom knows where I lived at 20. Marla stood, took the cookie box and said, you will never be one of us. I didn't stand. If us means signatures without permission, I said. I hope that's true. I left the office with Mr. Dorsey's door clicking behind us like a period. Outside, the weather didn't congratulate me. It just existed, which felt correct. I texted Jade, paused. Not funded. Title stamped hold. She replied, Pie? I smiled at my phone and, for the first time in days, at the sky. I went home, put my folder on the table, and sent 3 emails I had drafted in my head for a week. To the lender's security address. Identity misuse report, attaching the audit log, signature mismatch, and a com paragraph. I do not consent to any application listing me. Please remove my data from this file. Confirm in writing. Advise Bureau reporting corrections. To the Bureau dispute portal. Supplement to my temporary address dispute with the title hold memo. To my bank. Confirmation of the verbal PIN and a request to flag any joint inquiries for manual review. I did not throw anything. I did not perform. I made the paper say what happened so I don't have to keep explaining it to myself. Final update. The next wave wasn't dramatic. It was administrative, which is how accountability breathes. Lender outcome. Letter. A compliance manager wrote in polite, heavy sentences. Our review confirms application activity, listing you as co-borrower without your authenticated in-person consent. KBA challenge was completed from an iPad device not associated with your historical logins. IP resolved to a residential address not listed on your profile. We have removed your data from this application, placed the file in remediation, and suppressed the hard inquiry from Bureau records. Confirmation attached. There were 3 attachments, screenshots of the KBA session detail, timestamps, user agent, an application change log showing co-borrower removed, and a Bureau correction notice. Bureau correction. Status. The hard inquiry disappeared from my report window. My temporary address dispute came back, resolved, unauthorized. A small line added itself to my consumer statement. Lender verified misuse. Prior flag closed. If you've never felt a report unclench, it's a little like taking off a too tight ring. Title closure memo. Mr. Dorsey emailed the cleanest paragraph I've ever loved. Hold remains. Closing file not eligible to fund absent re-underwritten. Fully consensual package. Substitution page logged. Suspected remote signature documented. Our office considers this file closed pending lender direction. We will not reconvene without your written consent. He attached scans of the hold stamp and his notes, which read like a courtroom that only needs nouns. Broker statement. Evan, the broker, sent me a single-sentence apology that wanted to be longer. I'm sorry I let momentum outrun consent. He also copied the lender on a request to purge any templates bearing my name. I don't know if he learned a soul lesson. I do know he learned a workflow. Realtor note. Paige wrote, I should have looped you in from the start. I won't run surprise purchases again. She offered to show me the house, purely as a neighborly gesture. I said no. You can give a room back to the market without entering it. Vendors, allocation. The venue and caterer executed the clause exactly. Deposits applied to admin and staffing costs. No party, no refunds. An owner added a line I filed under petty validation. Recommends similar no-fraud clause for any event with financing components. One day a future bride will be quietly saved by a sentence she never sees. KBA session report. Human translation. The lender's security team sent me a redacted page breaking down the past. Quiz in normal words. Questions answered correctly included prior street names and vehicle type. We treat these as medium assurance. Absent in-person ID. These are insufficient for adding a borrower. I printed it for my folder and, honestly, for my own temper. It wasn't malice-proof. It was cousin-proof. That distinction matters. Then came the family weather. Marla launched a small PR campaign with relatives about paperwork ruining love. I didn't counter-program. I sent one aunt who asked an honest question a copy of title closure and lender outcome, and wrote, I didn't cancel a dream. I canceled a page that wasn't mine. The aunt sent back a heart and no further invitations. Liam and I tried one counseling session. The therapist asked him to say a sentence without apologizing for it. He said, I wanted to handle it, so she didn't have to think about it. She asked, what if thinking is how she feels safe? He said he was tired of being between me and his mother. I said he wasn't between us. He was beside someone he didn't want to disappoint. The therapist asked each of us to name a boundary we could keep without fury. Mine. I won't be added to debt without in-room consent. His. I won't let my mom drive my decisions. We all looked at those sentences like a trail map. He folded his. We ended the engagement in a room with no audience. He gave back the documents he still held. I returned the ring. We split the sunk costs of life planning by spreadsheet, not by mood. He promised to tell his mother to stop contacting me. He didn't ask for a second chance. I didn't offer one. We both seemed relieved to stop pretending we wanted the same physics. After that, the story softened into cleanup. I changed the locks because new keys are tidier than new arguments. I rotated my passwords, shut off voicemail forwarding forever, and kept the verbal PIN on my accounts. I set a calendar reminder in a few months to recheck the bureaus, not because I distrust the corrections but because trust likes habits. I took a small vacation from being interesting and organized my pantry by shape. I also sent thank yous to Mr. Dorsey for being a wall made of sentences, to the lender's compliance manager for writing like a person, to Jade for being the friend who buys pie and rehearses scripts, to myself for planting canary marks instead of yelling into a wind machine. Did I hear from Marla again? Once, in a group text I didn't ask to be in. Family is where forgiveness lives. I muted the thread and wrote a sentence on an index card I keep near my desk. Family is where consent should be non-negotiable. People have asked if this made me anti-surprise or anti-marriage. Didn't. It made me pro-daylight. I still believe in gestures. I just believe the best ones don't require you to close your eyes. A few last evidence blocks for the archive. A lender confirmation. Bureau. Hard inquiry removed. No adverse impact remains. A identity misuse file. Closure. No further action required. File closed unless new activity appears. Affidavit copy. Signed. A PDF with our initials next to no undisclosed borrowers. No substitutions. Halt on discrepancy. The personal note. A single page, handwritten, that says, "Ink is kinder than memory." Tucked behind the hold scan like a tiny prayer to a practical God. I keep wondering what would have happened if I'd let it slide. That miserable future where my name sits on a lien I didn't consent to, and every financial decision is a negotiation with a ghost page. I don't live there. I live where the paper matches the promise. ITA for halting a surprise closing and walking away from a wedding because the pages didn't tell the truth? If protecting my signature from becoming someone else's shortcut makes me the villain in a few stories, I can live with that. I'd like to spend the rest of my life being boring with the right person. 2 chairs, 1 table, and ink that doesn't move in the dark.